In Curefoods, you have, I think, 5 brands which are 100 crores plus.
So Rakul Preet, one of the partners in the business, was very passionate about millet. About 50% of our menu is millet.
What would the biggest mistake be that you'd want a young entrepreneur to avoid?
We've made the same mistake. Growing too fast in a food business is very, very tough.
What happens when things go downhill? Like COVID, for example, I remember EatFit had a huge issue at that time.
Near death. EatFit really struggled because 70% of our orders were from office pin codes and offices were shut. Business was in really, really bad shape, and that's where we almost rebooted.
Recently, there was this whole controversy about the kind of paneer that they're using, which is not even real paneer, right? What is the big learning from in the kitchen? I mean, what are the mistakes that one should avoid?
I think most of the food goes bad because it was not stored properly.
In your investment journey, has there been any F-ups that you made? That's something that you regret? Ankit Nagori is here with me. Ankit, thank you so much for joining us on Founder Effups.
Yes, my pleasure. Happy being here.
In so many brands that you've built, right?
Yes.
I mean, in the last, I think 5-6 years, you've built all kinds of brands, whether it's biryani, pizza, health-oriented brands. Is there one brand that made you feel like, you know what, oh no, I just shouldn't have acquired this one?
Yeah, so we were close to acquiring a brand, Sonia, and we also probably paid up some earnest money, if I may, but we realized that that would not work out because of various challenges, and we were saved by a margin. So we didn't end up acquiring it. We did losing some money because we signed a term sheet with a walkaway fee. But we did walk away and we did not end up making that mistake. In fact, that's one advice I give to a lot of founders who are looking to acquire companies, that you may do a walkaway fee or something like that, where you may lose some money, but if you don't like the deal, don't do it. Sometimes people get so involved in a deal and an M&A that even if halfway or 75% way you think that it's not the best thing to do, they end up committing to the mistake. So I think a lot of times we end up committing to the mistake purely because we have spent so much time on it, and you don't you think about the sunk cost, but it's best to let go. And I was lucky that we took that chance, and we just said we can't do it, and we paid the walkaway fee and moved out.
That's amazing. Which brand was this? I mean, can you share?
No, it would be difficult, to be unfair on them. So
for people, for that young entrepreneur who wants to start up a food brand, and at least I believe that food, the business to sustain, is the toughest.
Very tough.
Right?
learning as we go. So,
So if you had to tell us about the biggest challenge that you faced in the last, say, 10 years, right? Creating all these brands, what would it be? What would the biggest mistake be that you'd want a young entrepreneur to avoid?
I think it's very, very conventional, but growing too fast in a food business is very, very tough. And you generally get very tempted because more often than not, the first 2, 3, 4 outlets will do very well because, like you mentioned, we all love to experiment with new brands, and we love to try out new brands. And unlike many other businesses, Sonia, most businesses actually have a growth curve. It's almost like a steady glide path. In food, the first 3 months are better than the entire life cycle. If you launch a new restaurant on a high street, the first 3 months are the best months, and then it settles down to like a 70-80% of that first month's number, right? So a lot of people get carried away, looking at the success of the first 3 stores and first 3-4 months, thinking we've cracked a tech way of scaling. So a lot of us who are building omni-channel businesses now get very confused with the offline performances and try and use the tech playbook there. Tech playbook can still be used because there's scalability across cities. If you're building an e-commerce app, you can, if you want to market more, you can market to newer cities. But if you're opening an offline store, if it's done very well, the solution is not to go and open 10 more offline stores in the same city. I think so. That's where most of the brands have made mistakes. All the brands that we all love and have not done well over the years is purely because they grew very fast. We've made the same mistake in last 8-9 years of running EatFit and other brands now. I would say that we've done this mistake 2-3 times. Each time, we are flush with cash and we think our brands are working well, we'll probably open 5 extra stores than we should have. And then we, of course, have to claw back, etc. So growing too fast and timing the market and pacing the market is very, very tough. And I think it's a bit of a trial and error because you don't want to be leaving the money on the table, so you don't want to be opening too fewer stores, but you also can't have 20. So whether a city like Bangalore should have 20 Arambams or 10 Arambams, it's a journey, and you can know it only after you open 10 and not 20. So being patient and getting to 10 before 20 is very important.
Okay, so when you talk about growing too fast, you said a lot of brands have made that mistake, and so have you.
Yes.
In which brand? Was it in EatFit that you...
I think biggest learning for us was EatFit offline.
Okay.
We actually overestimated the need for health food on the go. We thought that people really need to eat healthy, and when they're out they would look for healthier options. When they're at the airports they will look for healthier options. It's not true. If people are given a chance to eat unhealthy, they actually eat unhealthy. And this
on
is
the go.
On the go. Like if you're in a mall, so we had EatFit stores in malls, in a mall food court, and our consumer research showed that people would eat healthy if they're in a mall. They've just finished a movie and they have an option of going to a healthy store or a biryani store. Imagine a mall food court, right? You've just watched a movie and you've come out.
Correct.
You can go to a biryani, pizza, burger, EatFit. And we realized that the numbers were not stacking up. We thought that the numbers would be much bigger. People who would come and order a healthier sandwich or a healthier rice bowl. They were not consuming that on the go. And that's where we learned that health is actually a cloud business first, because people are replacing their home meals. But the moment they're outside, I think they're mentally they are triggering, the mental trigger is
trained to have fun.
Have fun. So that's what we call it, entertainment food. We don't call it indulgence or junk. We call it entertainment. People are going out to have entertainment or to have fun. So they have this set pattern that I'll watch a movie, I'll have a popcorn, I'll have a burger. So you can't break away. And offering a healthier burger won't help.
Correct.
Offering a healthier burger will help when you're home and you are replacing a home meal and still want to indulge. Then say, okay, I'll have a whole wheat burger with a low fat patty. Right?
Oh wow!
This is called thatte idli.
I know. Hey, now this is
Some
what I've
idli.
come here for.
Yeah.
Thatte idli. But when did the brand begin?
We started in April last year. So Rakul Preet, who is one of the partners in the business, was very passionate about millet. So a large part of our menu is actually millet inspired. This may not be the millet idli, but about 50% of our menu is millet. So millet dosa, millet idli, everything in millet. So whatever a regular South Indian joint serves, we have the entire menu in millet available, and not just one millet, different varieties of millet. So that's how it is.
So I was going to ask you, what got you into this business? Because this is like the most obvious thing to do, and it must be a very cluttered space, but there is this
the
USP.
fact that because we've taken a USP of we have two directions there. One, we of course do millets, and also we have 3 different flavors. We are doing the same dish, or for example, if there is a podi idli, then we'll have a Andhra version of that, they'll have a Tamil version of that, and there'll be a Karnataka version of that. So we're doing 3 versions, 3 different sambars as well, because
in every outlet.
Yeah, so idea is to do it in every outlet. Of course, the larger ones like these can accommodate all 3-4 different flavors. But for some smaller ones, like the one in Indranagar is slightly smaller, we'll see which is the most predominant requirement, and we do that.
Wow.
But millet is the center of the whole piece.
And millet was the grain of the year.
Yeah, it is, and it is really good. I think it's gluten free and it's really good. I'm largely on millets.
No, but talking about different brands, right?
Yes.
I want to understand from you,
Yeah.
like when the going is good, then it's easy to survive.
Yeah.
What happens when things go downhill? Like COVID, for example, I remember EatFit had a huge issue at that time.
Near death. So I think we had those offline outlets I spoke about. We got 60 plus kitchens, and then COVID hits. And like I told you, EatFit is actually a meal replacement, and most of our orders come from office lunch hours. So people are at office and they don't want to eat their catered food in office, which is not the best food. And suddenly people are working from home, so they won't order a dal roti sabzi box because they were anyways doing it at their homes. And that's where the cloud kitchen entertainment brands took off, all the pizza brands and the burger brands, because people already were cooking at home and they didn't need a healthier option to be delivered at their home. It sounds counterintuitive, but that was the case, that we don't want a healthy tiffin box to be coming at home. If at all, we'll order some entertainment during the weekend. And that's where EatFit really struggled, because 70% of our orders were from office pin codes and offices were shut. Business was in really, really bad shape, and that's where we almost rebooted. We shut down a lot of kitchens, went back to 10 kitchens out of the 70 or 60, and restarted with having multiple cuisines, and that's where the idea of having more entertainment food came in. And we added biryani, pizza, on a small scale. And once that thesis was proven, then we acquired slightly larger brands and made sure that all our kitchens are multi-cuisine. So the learning there was that a single brand kitchen or a single brand food business will only take you that far, because you are leaving out so many slots on the table. I've been talking about it 7 days a week, 4 times a day, and you can't expect a healthy food brand to be like consumed on a Saturday evening. It's too much to be asked. So we realized that we need to have pizza, biryani, and that's how the business started. So I think COVID was the moment where we realized that no matter how good a kitchen you're running, if you don't have full selection, full menu, you can't run at a higher capacity.
So at no point during COVID did you think we should shut the brand down?
It was almost shut for a couple of months. Like there was no business for a couple of months. But that's when I realized that all these restaurants are shut down, and why not just build a much larger cloud kitchen business? See, in the first 3 months of COVID, it seemed that this would last for eternity, right? It must be 3. I think the world recovered much faster than most people imagined. While those 2 years looked very tough and very long, but if you in the hindsight, like everything was done and dusted in those 2 years.
Correct.
Came, disrupted, destroyed, and went away, right?
And to be honest, everybody's business is shut at that time. So as they say, misery loves company. You're sitting in your house, but you know that 10 other people are also.
Yes, absolutely. See, there were people whose business was shut, but they knew that the moment business, the world recovers, the business will come back.
Correct.
But for newer trends like EatFit or cloud kitchens, you don't know whether the same will happen, post. So idea was to not just sit tight and wait for the world to recover, but also find a way to add newer lines of businesses. And that's where we started experimenting with these cloud kitchens of biryanis and pizzas and desserts. And as the world opened in 2022, we decided that we definitely want to do a lot more offline. Started executing in 2023. And 2024 was the year when we truly became an omni-channel player, where a large part of business coming from offline as well.
There's also so much speculation around the quality of food, what goes on in the kitchen, the kind of, recently there was this whole controversy about the kind of paneer that they're using, which is not even real paneer, right? Now, you have run so many kitchens. What is the big learning from in the kitchen? I mean, what are the mistakes that one should avoid?
I think a lot of them, and we must have made some mistakes and learned. So I think the big one, Sonia, is just temperature management. We think that things are stored and preserved well because the chiller is there and the freezer is there. I think most of the food goes bad because it was not stored properly.
So tell me, in the industry right now, I mean, you know the internals of the industry. Are there a lot of hygiene, safety issues?
Absolutely. The commonly said thing, Sonia, is that you should not ever go to the backside of the kitchen because you'll stop eating out. I would say all the big players, they could see what QSRs, the American brands, when they came to India, did to India was really revolutionize the supply chain.
Correct.
I think today for us to start a new food business is super easy. Like what Flipkart did to e-commerce, now there is third-party logistics, there are payment providers, there everything, because
the
Flipkart came, I think the McDonald's, Domino's, Pizza Hut, when they came, now the entire system exists. There's a trained workforce of maybe 100,000 people, managerial positions, who know how to run a commercial kitchen. I spoke about the temperature management. There's something which they know. So I would say that any known brands and any international brands and multi-location brands, more often than not, they will be decent. But if there is a really new brand which is making waves and the food is really good, they might have a learning curve on all of these pieces. So if you're enjoying the food, don't go to the backside.
I don't want to be a part of the learning curve. But we're going to talk about your brands. I want to also know your own journey with money, because it's really gone through one,
of course.
Linear curve, so to speak. But tell me a little bit about what is your salary, where do you invest your money? I want to know everything.
So ever since COVID, I like we said, we had a near-death experience in COVID, and I actually invested a lot of capital back into the business, to refund the business, because had I not done that, the investors wouldn't have shown any interest in a debt business. So I invested a lot of personal capital, like a large chunk of my savings back into the business. And ever since COVID, I've not taken any salary. So the aim is to first make the business like really grow and sustain, and then I'll see whether I need to take some salary. So.
And what about your investments?
Yeah, so I think a lot of my investments, so a large part of my portfolio is unlisted equity, which is here at Curefoods, and a lot of other startups. I invest in quite a few startups. That's one way of learning about the industry. You know, when you meet these really young, energetic founders, you realize, you know, what all is happening. So that's my way of keeping my learning curve up, and I invest in a bunch. So I have a pretty large portfolio now, and that's where a lot of my savings are invested. And of course, there is this safety net where I invest in low risk public market equities.
Okay, so since the show is about Effups,
Yes.
in your investment journey, has there been any Effups that you made, or something that you regret?
Yeah, major. At the start of COVID, probably first day, second day, when the market was crashing, I sold my entire portfolio.
No way, you're one of those.
Yes.
Oh no.
Yeah, because I was going through two emotions, right? One,
Fear.
the business was shutting down, the EatFit business I spoke about, and then the market's crashing. I didn't want to deal with two different emotions at the same time.
Correct.
So I just sold the entire portfolio.
Oh no. And that has been your biggest regret?
No, I think since then, I think what was lost is lost, but the market has been so rewarding post that. I think a lot has been recovered, but of course.
So did you buy again later?
I did, but much after my business here stabilized. I didn't want, like I said, and also I used a lot of that money to reinvest into the business itself to be able to recover, and we eventually did. So yes.
Actually, COVID tested a lot of people's patience, because
Yes.
at that time it was not just, like you said, it was not just your portfolio,
Yes.
but your entire vocation was wiped out,
Yes.
literally.
Yes.
Literally, like in months, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, happy to know that you are just like all of us.
We all are the same.
All for everyone goes through the
Yes.
same emotions. But yeah, on to Olio Pizza next.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So you've never had a co-founder, right?
I've never had a co-founder. Of course, at Cult, I had Mukesh. And when we started focusing on Curefoods as a separate entity, I've never had a co-founder. And I think it's advisable to have a co-founder. But what I have already realized is that if you don't have a co-founder, you should have a very strong team. And in my case, my chief operating officer Gokul, for all practical purposes, he is a co-founder. He's been with the company from day one and has built alongside me. So either you can find people who are technically a co-founder, may not be technically a co-founder, but for all practical purposes be one. So either get a co-founder or get a very strong founding team. So
Because you need someone to constantly bounce
yeah,
ideas
absolutely.
off.
And it's such a lonely journey, and there are more bad days than good days. Because I'll tell you what I've discovered in startups, Sonia, that the good days are so good that it balances off the bad days, but the frequency of bad days are a lot more.
Are longer.
Because I realized that in startups, because you set such lofty goals and such fast-paced goals, that more often than not, you are bound to fail. But if there are good days and good periods or purple patches, you really need to really capitalize on that.
Okay, that's interesting actually. And that is, a part of behavioral finance, as we call it, right? How to sustain with a bad investment, and how to sort of keep your mental health going.
Yes.
But in terms of culture, since we're talking about having a co-founder, which you recommend for any business,
Everyone,
or have a good founding team,
Yes.
What else? Because there's so much talk now about bad culture in startups. It's almost got a bad name. Nobody the young generation just doesn't want to work for startups because of this whole culture issue. But what's your take on that?
See, I think bad or good culture is only defined by the kind of people who are working there, and they all set the culture. I think more important than whether it's a bad culture or good culture, a person looking to join a startup should know what is the culture. What are the key principles that the team follows. Whether you're supposed to work long hours or not, because there's so much chatter around 70, 80, 90 hours, and I think it's not a function of whether it's 70 hours, 80 hours. If the team there is working long hours, then they should be candid about it during the interview process and tell them that, okay, we work long hours And if you come in, probably you also have to work long hours. So it cannot be a discovery later. And which is why if someone is looking to join my team, I am generally pretty candid that, you will have to work long hours and sometimes on weekends too, because our kitchens are open 20 hours, 7 days a week.
Correct.
So we cannot differentiate between, of course, there are shifts and shift managers, etc. But then if our central team or a headquarter team is working only 6 hours or 7 hours, 5 days a week, it's unfair. At least finish your stipulate, the total number of hours which you were signing up for. You should finish that.
Correct.
And it could be 50, 60, 70, but at least deliver whatever you're supposed to. I see that a lot of companies allow work from home, etc. But for a service sector like ours, we cannot be fully a work from home. Of course, there are cases where you may have to work from home. The flexibility would be there. But I think the bad culture and good culture is just a function of what you came in, for and what you discovered. And I think being candid during the interview process, being transparent during the interview process will set half the problems aside.
So do you think it's harder to hire Gen Z just because expectations are very different, right? Expectation, disappointment.
Yeah.
I mean that whole cycle.
Yeah, at the cost of being slightly controversial, I would say that my limited experience, I think Gen Z is different, and their thought process is different from ours, and which is why it's called a generational gap. But I do see that things which don't matter to us matter to them, and things what matter to them may not be important to us. So. Which is why I feel that for a company which is fast growing and which requires people to put in extra hours, etc., should be more transparent. Because I realize that certain population now, especially the kids who are coming out of college now, they have various hobbies, which is good. Earlier, I think when we passed out from college, I realized that we were just working. And
we had a one-track mind.
Yeah, because we didn't even have so many avenues, right? We were just talking about sports earlier. Now there's so many pickleball courts around, and if you go there, you'll see a lot of younger kids playing.
Yeah.
I would have loved that back then, but there weren't any pickleball courts. The game was not popular then. So if they have all those opportunities, they would love to find time for that. So it's just different, and setting expectation, figuring out horses for courses, which kind of roles suit which kind of people. Of course, creative teams require a different set of people. But yeah, I have noticed that in a company like ours, where we have long hours purely because it is a service industry, 20 hours, 7 days. You cannot be completely disconnected when you're not working. And that sometimes I've noticed that for the newer generation is a challenge. When they're off, they may want to be off, while our work does not allow us to behave like that.
So any cultural F-ups that you would have made? I mean, any mistakes where you felt that, I should have done it differently? Yeah,
I think what we have done in the past, and that was long back, we corrected it many years back, is in my earlier businesses, whether at Flipkart or elsewhere, we used to hire a lot of generalists, thinking that if they're smart, they'll figure out. All the MBA grads and IIT grads, they are very hardworking and they'll figure out. But I think very early on in the food business, we realized that it is a very domain-led business, and you need people with food experience. And while generalists will figure out, but there are certain things that you need expertise on and experience for. And that's when we decided that we'll hire a lot of people from the food industry. And it's very different from what we've done in the past, where we've just, like when we were building Flipkart, we hired almost no one from retail, and we just hired a lot of people from just smart, passionate people, kind of a pool. So I feel that that's one big change we've made, and it's helped us, and we've created the right balance between just analytics and smarts versus domain expertise and knowledge. Not that they are mutually exclusive, but one of the segments have to over commit on one of the aspects.
Anything else that you would advise? Yeah,
I think in general the fundamentals of a good working environment not change. I think transparency, information symmetry, and just making sure that there are no side conversations. These are the three very important pieces, Sonia, because I've noticed that in a startup or any other company, people wield power because of information asymmetry. If I know more than you, then I would act more powerful. you would have heard these conversations. यार मुझे पता है कुछ होने वाला है. We are changing the strategy, but I can't tell you now. Wait.
Correct.
Fear mongering, right?
Yeah,
And this happens when there is actual information asymmetry. Maybe there's small group of people who know more than a larger group, or people just trying to show that they're in the inner circle. I think if as a founder or as a senior team member, or even a mid-level team member, if you're able to not demonstrate this kind of a behavior, then people who are at a larger number of people, they're at ease. They're not double guessing you. They're not trying to think whether this is right or wrong, right? So I realized that what has happened is in the past, we may have, or many other people would have, showcased this smaller group, inner group kind of a thing, that there is this management team per se, and they know more than others. Of course, we all require management teams, but the management team should be used as a forum which will disseminate the same information further. Sometimes they use the information to create a pedestal for themselves, that I know more than you.
I know everything.
And if you stick around, I will make sure that you are covered, right?
Correct.
I think that's the mistake a lot of founders make. We also would have made it, where you create a group of powerful people,
like a boys club.
Yeah, who know more than others. Yeah, so this is a very important.
You should avoid
learning.
that yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any brand manager, brand leader has disagreed with you. What are the kind of cultural differences that you've learned from, the mistakes you want other people to avoid? Yeah,
I think while it's very good to say that you'd have to create a culture of where people stand up and disagree with you. Founders, and I'm no different, generally come in with a very strong point of view, and someone has to come in where they look very confident even with half the information, and have a strategic point of view. I also do that, where if I have 70% conviction, I convince myself to take that route, but I'm also open to disagreement. But most founders don't, including me, don't like disagreement at the first level without information.
Correct.
Now that I have built a thesis basis 70% data, I will need real data to disagree, because I have done my homework to come up with a thesis. So what I don't like is when people just disagree without data, because I've already done the hard work of convincing myself, finding relevant data. There could be confirmation bias there though, but I have still found a way to convince myself. Now you have to disagree with me, right? And I have to be able to change my thought process. There are people in the company who regularly do that, and one of them is definitely the Nomad, the team which founded Nomad, and that's the only luxury brand that we have, and we have not built one outside of that. And I think I generally come in with a lot more mass market and scalability ideas, while they come in with more.
They want to keep it tight.
Yeah, tight. But I think there has to be a common ground.
Balance.
So if I have to think about one team which disagrees very often, is the Nomad team, because I do believe that it can be one level less premium, because right now it is a very, very exclusive club of people who use Nomad. And they think that.
So you're saying if you bring down the premiumness, then you'll get more reach.
And the team's point of view, which could be correct, and we keep debating, is that more and more people will come into that club over time. I feel that growth of India's upper middle class is slower than the growth of the middle class. And if we miss the bus on this, some other premium brand will take it. Because like we were chatting earlier today, that there are a bunch of new pizza brands coming across the country.
Yeah.
Pizza was never considered gourmet, but now it is gourmet. People love their different toppings on pizza. While Olio is a great pizza, but is not gourmet. People will not celebrate their 30th birthday, 35th birthday at an Olio store. But
so I want to talk a little bit about funding, because we were having this discussion earlier, and it really got my interest.
Yes.
You are a startup investor.
Yeah.
In many startups, and you told me that, Sonia, if you want to be a startup investor, you have to invest in at least 50 startups.
Yes.
Now, I don't have that kind of capital, but...
No, whatever capital you have, just divide it into 50 parts and invest, because that's
Tell me more.
So, see, I think angel investing is the riskiest form of investing, right? Like it's like if small cap is risky, then imagine there will be a micro cap, right? And there will be, I think, only 5% successes. And if you invest 100 rupees and divide it into 50 buckets, for you to recover 100 rupees and make at least a 15% IRR, because you're taking a risky bet, right? You have to find one or two of those companies which return 100x. 100x happens only in 1% cases or 2% cases. And for 2% to be a whole number, you need minimum 50 investments. 1 out of 50 is 2%. So I generally tell this to my friends and family who now, because of all the coolness and around investing and inspirations from Shark Tank and everything, they say that, I really want to start investing. My first advice to them is that, and very genuinely I tell them that invest in the new age stocks on the stock market, because you're more likely to get a decent return there than start. And of course, they have done that, and everyone invested in Swiggy and seem to have done well, right? So now they want the stories of 30x returns, 20x returns. But I've been telling them that please find whatever capital you have, divide it into 50 parts, and you start investing from that. But the biggest challenge won't be the capital. People have 1, 2, 3, 4 crores, and even if they invest 5 lakhs per company, it's a lot of. There are founders who are willing to take 5 lakh checks as well. But finding 50 companies is the challenge.
Yes.
And that's where I think a lot of angel investors who are not from the industry are disadvantaged, because I don't think they have that kind of a deal flow. Which is why then my advice is that invest into whatever, there are micro VCs who are pooling in capital, or there are VCs who are taking smaller checks for LPs, like 1 crore, 2 crore checks. But even that is difficult, because VCs take LP money right now because they want to have something other than capital. Capital is now slightly more abundant than what it was a few years back. So I would say that if you are an angel investor, you need to first build a network so that you get a 50 company deal flow over the next 3 to 4 years, and then start investing. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to get meaningful returns and exits. While you might get a mark to market in 4 or 5 years, but finding exits is the tougher part in angel investment, because more often than not, there will be large investors will come in, they'll have superior rights, etc., etc. So angel investment, while on the outside looks very interesting, it is a small club right now, which is getting the best deals.
And it's a very envious club at that. But you have over 100 startup investments, right?
Yeah.
And which has been your best one so far?
There are a bunch. I think there are a bunch of companies which have done well. A lot of ex-Flipkart companies have done well. Groww probably. There was a space company called Skyroot, which I exited. So yeah, some of them have done well.
You exited Skyroot,
yes.
Okay. And so there's Groww, there's Skyroot, any more? So in your bunch, in your 100 list of companies, just 2 did exceptionally well?
2 did exceptionally well. Many of them are doing well. But yeah, I think where, something which I can talk about right now, these 2.
So any mistakes, any F-ups in your funding journey?
Thankfully no, because people who have raised money from are all the investors from the Flipkart and the EatFit time. So 80-90% of my cap table are people who have been part of their journey, or they've been part of my journey for over 15 years now. And there are new investors as well for Curefoods who've done backed us completely. So thankfully that's not a F-up I have done, because that's a very costly one. If you get a wrong investor on board, then it just is super tough. Like living with them for over a decade is tough. So,
So for someone who's perhaps starting, would you suggest being bootstrapped at the beginning and raising money later? I mean, how does one really go about it?
Being bootstrapped requires personal capital, and what I would definitely not recommend is to put yourself in any sort of inconvenience to start a company, because it is a 10-year journey, like start to end. In a good scenario, it's a 10-year. In a bad scenario, it can shut down earlier. But if you want a really large outcome, 10 years, sometimes 15 years, sometimes 20 years as well, right? So we have examples of technology companies going public after 16, 17 years also now, right? We're seeing examples, and many of them are lined up. All the good examples are more than 10 years, right? Zomato was 15 years, 14 years when they went public. And what a company, right? Probably one of the best technology companies in the country right now. So you have to have patience for 10 years. So don't put in capital if that's the only safety pot you have. If you have extra money, which is, useful but not essential to run a good lifestyle or a regular lifestyle, then definitely put in some capital. But I would generally suggest that start with a seed round, which is now very commonly known as friends and family round. People are looking to get into startups, right? So finding the first 200K won't be tough for anyone who's got a good network. Use that to get to the product market fit and raise a series A, seed, whatever terminologies you want to use. But never bootstrap it at the cost of your peace of mind. You have a family to take care of. You need to make sure that at no point in time the kids' convenience and anything is getting compromised, because then you will not be able to give in 200% in your work.
Correct.
This is just one part of life, right? Running your family, being healthy, staying fit, being happy is the other part of life which you should not compromise on, and that comes only if there is a clear safety net. So I also tell most people to start up only when you have that safety net. I've seen a lot of people start up at wrong times in life, when you're not emotionally or financially stable, and a lot of things are moving. I think startup is something which you should do when a lot of things in our life are settled, including finances.
Okay, no, that's important.
Yes,
I mean, a lot
yes.
of founders talk about the dark side of the
It
startup
is super
world
tough.
as well.
I'm telling you, on most days you would think that why?
Why am I doing this?
Yes, on most days, and it's important to talk about it because
I mean, you've had so many rough patches, right?
yeah,
But you've
yeah.
never really given up.
Yeah, I think Sonia, what has helped me is that I got my financial safety net from Flipkart, and post that then like I said, took care of all the other pieces, and this is my personal journey of building a listed company at some point in time, and that's where it is.
Has that been your dream? Or?
It's a part of the journey, and given how other companies which I look up to, other founders which I look up to, like I think Dipinder is one of the best founders in India ever, and looking at his journey, it's definitely an inspiration, if not a dream.
So who else are your mentors in the startup space, or I mean, people you look up to?
I think Binny, of course, has been a big supporter of Curefoods. He's the largest stakeholder in the company after me, and of course, I worked for him at Flipkart.
Binny Bansal.
So yeah, Binny Bansal. So he is a friend and a mentor. And the other person I can call as a mentor is Prashant Prakash of Axel, and he does so many things that it's unfair to call him Prashant Prakash of Axel. He does so many things.
Yeah.
So he's a mentor at work, in personal life in general. Yeah.
Okay, so as a startup community, I mean, do you guys meet, ideate, brainstorm a lot?
I don't think there is a single forum like that, like a YP or something, no. But I think everyone is so open to, open to helping and ideating. Kunal Shah is one of my favorite people to reach out to, when it's anything consumer. Lalit of Groww in general, when you're feeling intellectually, not nourished.
Not stimulated.
Not nourished, then just go and talk to him and you'll come back super inspired. So there are people whom you can reach out to, when you have to. So.
And I think that is that, that ecosystem is so important, right?
Yes.
To grow. I read in one of the books that facade that you create, people don't, I mean, when you're making a building, for example, there is that external facade that is built, right? People don't give so much importance to it, but it's actually so important to kind of keep those relationships in place.
Absolutely.
So in Curefoods, you have, I think, 5 brands which are 100 crore plus.
Yes.
If you had to pick one brand which you think will become the hero brand for you in the next 10 years?
I think my favorite brand, there would be Olio, purely because of the TAM. If I just want to talk about the TAM of health food versus pizza versus biryani TAM is larger, but with a particular style of biryani. So biryani has like 20 variants, right? Amritsari and Kolkata and
Hyderabadi.
whatnot. So with our biryani, which is Sharief Bhai, which is a particular style of biryani, the TAM gets divided. But if I have to just take a pure TAM view, Olio, like we just spoke, pizza is a pizza. And if you fix a good pizza, the TAM will be very large. And of course, the incumbents there are massive, Domino's and who not, like they've built massive businesses and great businesses. So if you can just get a fraction of their business also, it will be a very, very large business. So I think Olio is one thing which has the largest scalability, I would say.
No, I mean, there's some great ideas here. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And we're of course going to ask you some rapid fire questions, but I think we have to move to our next location now.
Yeah.
So let's go.
Absolutely, yes, look forward. Great.
So what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick rapid fire before we wind up for the day.
Yes.
But no thinking, no spending time thinking on this one.
Done.
Okay.
Yes.
Would you rather own India's #1 pizza brand or #1 biryani brand?
Pizza brand.
I knew that was coming.
Yes.
Swiggy or Zomato offering 0 commissions for a year, or the government...
I don't need the option, I'll take that.
Yeah. That's how much commissions trouble you. Okay. Convincing a VC to invest 100 crores in cloud kitchens, or convincing an Indian family to stop cooking and order daily meals?
The second one, because if that happens, you don't need the VC money.
But that'll take a while, right?
It'll take a while. In many smaller many larger cities of the world, it's already happening. Tokyo, Singapore, New York, it'll happen. let's start with Bombay.
In fact, I heard recently that even in Dubai,
Yes.
a lot of buildings are being made without kitchens.
In Bombay also I saw some ad which had like just a kitchenette.
Just a kitchenette, yeah.
Yes.
Interesting, okay. A brand with a 4.9 star rating or a brand with 100 crore revenue?
4.9 because that will lead to 100 crore revenue over time. Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Bet on one trend for the next 10 years, healthy eating or hyper convenience?
Tough. Hyper convenience.
Okay. So, but the hyper convenience is already something that is sort of
I think
in the works,
hyper
right?
convenience is a platform on which healthy eating, entertainment eating, delivery. But I think hyper convenience does not really mean 10 minutes. I think at scale, if you can solve for 20 minutes, I am a big proponent of that. 10 minutes is not sustainable, and the food is not sustainable, which is being served in 10 minutes. I think 20 minutes is the platform to be built, which I think Swiggy is already doing with Bolt. And it's delivering in less than 20 minutes a very, very large variety of food and real food, not just like pre-cooked food.
okay.
Yes.
So 20 minutes is a sweet spot.
I think so, yes.
Okay.
I think that will really revolutionize the food industry. That will bring in a lot of new customers.
So since you're talking about hyper convenience and Swiggy and Zomato, do you think at any point that's been a threat to your business?
No, Swiggy and Zomato are partners. They're deep partners in the business, and we believe that we both need each other to continue building the business. And they have grown because there's good supply available like us, and we have grown because they have such massive reach. So it's a symbiotic relationship, if at all.
So there's been so much learning through this episode, so many F-ups that you've
Yes.
made, that you've shared with us,
Yes.
and I'm so grateful for that. But anything you'd want to conclude with, anything that you'd want to share as an advice to the next generation of startup investors?
Yeah, I think one advice that I may have is just, it's a very, very long-term game, and I keep talking about it all the time. And you need to have resources and the patience to play that game. There is no shortcut to building a startup, and we all end up thinking it's a 3-year, 5-year, 7-year game. But I gave examples earlier today that there are all the companies which we consider super successful have taken at least 15 years to get built. Flipkart is still not listed. It's a 17-year-old business and still very successful. But of course, the founders there have gotten their exit, but the company is still not listed, and it might take another couple of years probably. So by that time, it will be a 20-year-old company. So you need to have at least a decade or 2 decades worth of patience.
Okay. Well, just before we wind down, I wanted to, inform our viewers as well that 01 is a platform which gives you authentic, credible content and information. And through this platform, we're bringing to you many, many shows. Of course, this Founder Effups is one of them, but there are plenty other successful shows called Girl Boss and many more. So do stay tuned in. And Ankit, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, that was an amazing conversation with Ankit Nagori, but a couple of things stayed with me. One is a strategy to build 5 to 6 mini brands, small successful brands rather than one mega brand. That worked for Ankit. The second thing is always have a co-founder in your business because it will help you with better risk-taking ability. And of course, at the end of the day, you must understand that every restaurant business has a 7-year life cycle at max. Beyond that, you need to cut the cord. But so many learnings. I had a great time. Hope you did too. Thanks a lot for watching.